Okay, what I want to do right now is show how we create a sign for Rosebud Continuum for our plastic recycling area. And what I'm going to do is take you through it. So you'd have to have an account. I have a Zappar account, and that was provided by the university. And you can try it for free, but it costs if you don't have a license. And I think it's between $30 and $60 a month, so it's a bit expensive. But we have a license, so in my own case, I can log in, and when I log in, I have the ability to create various projects. And so I'm going to click a new project, and my new project is going to be on plastic recycling number 5, which is plastic polypropylene. So I'll just call it polypropylene. And you can use Studio, which enables you to put in 3D content, augmented reality. You can put in any kind of floating augmented reality that you want, as facial recognition and all that. That's a bit more complex. There's Designer, which is a little less complex. Lets you do multiple scenes, support videos, and create buttons. There's Universal AR for augmented reality, and then there's Widgets, which is the simplest way. So I always start just by using the widget for beginners. I can later go on and add more complicated content with Studio, Designer, Universal AR, but I'm going to start with the simplest of tools, which is called Widgets. When I say next, it's going to ask me what my trigger will be. My trigger will be a zap code. That's the simplest one, and I create the project, and then I have the ability to put widgets to associate with this trigger. This is the code, the unique, it's like a QR code, the unique Zappar code that will trigger these various experiences. So when I open widgets up for this, I can add, for example, a video. And I want to add a YouTube video to it. And that's where I will go to, I'll go to YouTube, and I will find, for now, a placeholder, a video on polypropylene that people can watch. So polypropylene. And then I'll replace it later, but I want some content to start with. So here's one, what is polypropylene? What you need to know polypropylene. 3D printing polypropylene filament, that's pretty cool. Melting polypropylene, plastic shaping. So there's some interesting stuff out there. And I think for the case of just this first one, let's take a look at what is polypropylene, see if this is any good. Yeah, I've used this guy's videos before, so he makes some interesting videos on what polypropylene is, and I'll end up probably keeping his videos as I add more content in. But it's a pretty good series that this container and packaging people thing is. So I'm going to go and hit share, and oops, I didn't need to go to Reddit. Don't go to Reddit. I go to Reddit. Reddit. I never use Reddit. What is polypropylene? So I'm going to copy that URL in, and then I'm going to go to ZapWorks, and I'm going to paste that in, and bingo, and use this video, and it will Zappify it. So now that video is associated with the Zap code. So it's 5. Okay, and that means that when we scan this Zap code with our camera, after publishing it, then it will trigger that video. And that's the start. That's the easiest way to get into the game. So now I'm going to download the PNG. I found that it is useless, even though we're using SVGs for our XCarve, for our sign, it is useless to download this SVG. It produces, I guess I can show you what it looks like so you can see why it's useless. So there's the SVG that we downloaded, and it looks good when you look at it like this. Seems like everything's okay, but something goes wrong when I go to my Easel software, and here's where I'm going to set up a new sign, and I want to get that Zap code in, but I need an invert of it. But take a look at this. So first I'll go and I'll make a copy, because I have a template, of my LDPD sign, and this is called Easel. This is the software from Inventables. So this was my old sign. Instead of making a copy of LDPE, I'm going to call this polypropylene, and I'll rename it. And then that's plastic number 5. So let me move this over. And plastic number 5. So the other things I'm going to change. Hi, my name is PP for polypropylene. So I dropped my mouse. So I'm changing that, and then I need to say down here, take the name of it, and this software is very slow. Polypropylene. I hope I spelled that right. Polypropylene. I don't know if I should actually capitalize the polypropylene, yeah. So I shouldn't capitalize the extra P. So let me go back to that polypropylene, and let me move this to the center. Move this over a little bit. Move this over. All right, now that sign, this is the symbol, the Zappar code that I had for polyethylene, low density polyethylene. I'm going to take it out, and I'll show you if I bring in that other one, import SVG, and go to those downloads, look what happens. Scale down to fit. It looks, zoom out here. It looks just horrible. Something went wrong with the code. And so even if I bring it down, that zap code ain't gonna work. That's a mess. So we can't do it that way. We can't use Zappar's function for the SVG code, unfortunately. So make a note of that. You're not gonna get away with it. So you get rid of that. So this has got to go. All right, so where does that leave us? What it means is that we've got to, in order to make this work, we have to go to our polypropylene and download it as a PNG. And once we have it as a PNG, that's the code. Now that code would work if you zapped it with your Zappar, with your camera. You would get a trigger, and it would play the video that we associated with it. But here's the problem. When we go to Easel, let me save this. Save as, and save as polypropylene ping. It should save as polypropylene zap ping. I'm going to have to invert it, because in Easel, when you use a zap code, it has to be that the zap lightning bolt and the spaces in between the little widgety things have to be white. And the image that we paste here, if it was white here, then when it carved into the two-color HDPE, then it would be green where the Zappar lightning bolt is, instead of white, because we're carving through green. If you look up here, this is a two-color HDPE. It has a green layer, a white layer, and a green layer under that. And we're carving through the green layer to expose what's underneath. And whatever shows up as black in this will show up as white in this. That means that I have to have the Zappar's lightning bolt be black, and in the actual code, when I bring it in, it would be white, because that's the way that it comes through. So I've got to invert it, and I do that by going to a website called pinetools.com, invert image. You can just type into Google invert image. Why not show you that in case you get confused? Invert image. If you type that in, there'll be a bunch of online inversion tools, and you can use invertimageonline.co, you can use raw pics, First one that comes up is Pine Tools, so that's the one I picked. I pick Pine Tools, I choose the file, and I'm choosing the polypropylene Zap, this one here. I see that it's made so that you can trigger it. It's got the lightning bolt in white and then white around the little widget parts. But I need to invert it, so I invert it. Now the white Zap is black and the widget things are white. That means it's going to carve down through the green high-density polypropylene and expose white where there is now black here. It's expose white wherever there's black. So I'm going to download that ping, and the next thing I'll do, I will name it PP Zap Invert, so I know it's the inverted one. And now I've got to convert it to an SVG. So to do that, there's a bunch of conversion tools for SVG. So I'm going to say PNG to SVG up here, and there's one, imageonlineconvert.com comes up, so let me use that. So I click on that, and I choose the file, which is in my downloads probably. No, actually it's not, it's in my pictures folder. And there it is, PP Invert. So you see there's the original one, polypropylene Zap with the lightning bolt in white. I'm choosing the inverted one to turn into my SVG. It uploads, and then I start the conversion, and then I download it, and it downloads into my downloads folder. Now when I go to Easel and I go File, Import SVG, and go to my downloads folder, there is my inverted version, which I'll shrink down. And this is about the smallest I can make this using a 1/16 inch drill bit, because otherwise it won't be able to drill those black lines in between the widgety bits. Now here, as you can see in the preview, it's going to carve right through our 1/4 inch plastic sheet, and we don't want that. So be careful when it comes in. If it comes in full black, that means it's a full drill through, right down to the 1/4 inch. So I'm going to bring this up to 1/8 of an inch, and that way I carve deep enough through that top green layer. See, here's the HDPE2 color. A green layer for a 1/16 of an inch, then you have a 1/4 inch, not a 1/4 inch, an 1/8 of an inch of white material, and then another 1/16 of green. And we're carving through that first 1/16 of an inch, and then halfway through the 1/8 of an inch of white. We can stay shallower if we wanted to and save ourselves time, but I want to make sure that this carve is deep enough that it doesn't get gummed up by any of the residue from the top, the green stuff being pushed in. So I go about to 1/8 inch, I go halfway through. And that should be true of everything in there, like this sign here. Every piece of this should be set to about 1/8 of an inch. Whoops, need to do that, Control-Z. All right, so now the sign is ready, and I can go pick it up over by the XCarve machine. Because as you can see here, when I generate detailed preview using a 1/16 inch bit, this is a 12 by 8 sheet of 2-color HDPE, it's a 1/4 inch thick. You can see that that 16th inch bit does get through, although you see it doesn't quite get through down at the bottom. So that's where the preview is helpful. I'm going to grab this and make it just a little bigger. Maybe move this plastic over a little bit. My experience with this is that it still will work with the Zappar as a trigger, even if it's not completely white all the way through.
Plastic number 5 small.
Make the what? Plastic number 5 small? I think we're okay. The smaller it is, the more chance it is of not showing up. So that's what it would look like, and that's...
It's not curved.
Hmm?
the lines are not connected.
Yeah, here. But it's okay. It's enough down that it will still trigger. So we should be okay with that. And that'll be the sign. And that was the procedure then. Just knowing that if you're making a sign in XCarve, what you do to get there, by the way, is you go to inventables.com and then you go to Easel or Explore Easel. And when you're there, if you have Easel, then you'll see your account. And I've got all these different signs that I've created. And if you have an XCarve machine, then you get a free account to carve. Otherwise, you pay for the carving because we bought a machine. So, but you can design stuff. You get, I think, 1 or 2 free carves per day. So you as students could get an Easel account. And yeah, we have Easel Pro. So you can get an account for free and carve 1 or 2 and then send it over, and we can do the real carving here at Rosebud. Otherwise, you're paying this $155 a year or $20 a month in order to use it. So, and there's an educator. It says Easel Pro is free for educators and their students, so you can get a student account. So that's just great. That's what I have, having an EDU account. So the easel is, this is how it begins to look, and lets you decide if you want to work with bamboo or birch plywood or hard maple or 2-color HDPE, and we're working with the 2-color HDPE generally, and then setting what color we're working with, black on white, or we have the green on white, and we also recently have the red on white. So you can get those, and then you set the thickness. Ours that we buy is generally 0.25 inches, and then that shows up in here in the layer thickness. And then, yeah, you get a preview, and you can use all sorts of different shapes and things. Circles in, and you can get text, you can write stuff, and so PC juice, whatever. And it also has, oops, it seems like I lost it. There we go. It also has the ability to choose from various shapes that you can put in, and you can then, they're all scaled vector graphics or SVGs. Okay, so there's a lot that you can do with this software, and carve stuff. So start by making your signs and then send them over. All right. Thanks a lot. I hope that was useful.